You work the evidence room at a mid-sized precinct in a city that stopped surprising you a long time ago. Sub-basement level. No windows. A smell that is equal parts industrial cleaner and old. Cardboard that you stopped noticing somewhere around year 3. The city pays you $49,000 a year to be the last clean hand in a chain that starts on the street and ends in a courtroom. You log it in. You log it out. You protect the integrity of the physical record that the entire justice system pretends to believe in. You are 38 years old. You have a son in 8th grade who wants to go to a university 2 states away. You have a mortgage on a house in a neighborhood that used to be affordable and decided to stop. You have a wife who teaches 4th grade and brings work home in a canvas bag every night and never complains about it, which is its own kind of pressure you couldn't explain to anyone. You took this job because it was stable, benefits, pension, the kind of employment your father called a foundation. You believed him. You still do mostly. You sit in the fluorescent quiet and you catalog and you store and you believe in the foundation until the foundation sends Detective Carver down the stairs. Carver has been on the force 19 years. Commendations on his wall. The kind of detective the chief mentions at press conferences when the city needs to look functional. He comes to you in October with something small. A seized laptop from a case that collapsed before arraignment. Defendant died in custody. No family claiming property. No case to attach it to. He tells you he has a confidential informant who needs a clean device and the department's formal. Disposal process runs 4 to 6 months through 3 departments and 2 sign-off chains, and the CI needs it by Friday. He's not asking you to do something violent. He's asking you to check a box on a form and then check a different box. He's asking you to let the paperwork do what paperwork does when no one is reading it carefully. You've read enough paperwork in 11 years to know exactly where the gaps are. Everyone who works a system long enough knows where the system breathes. You do it. You tell yourself it is a laptop. You tell yourself nobody is counting laptops. Carver thanks you. Not effusively, just a nod, and something quiet about appreciating a professional. You sit alone with the HVAC cycling and the fluorescence ticking and nothing feels the way. You expected nothing to feel. There's no weight to it. That's what surprises you. You cataloged it as a moment that would carry weight, and it doesn't. It's just a Tuesday that became a slightly different Tuesday. 6 weeks later, Carver comes back. This time it's pharmaceutical. Hydrocodone, 60 tablets. Pulled from a residential bust that pled to a lesser charge. And left the evidence in suspension. He puts a number on the table. Not an envelope. Just a number, he says out loud, quietly, like he's mentioning the weather. $1,800. You are staring at a tuition estimate your son printed from a university website. Room, board, and fees. The number at the bottom has 5 digits and a comma. You pull the disposal form. You note the reclassification. You build the paper trail that means something other than what it says. The $1,800 comes through a Venmo account Carver set up for you. The account name is the name of a fictional handyman service. You deposit it in pieces across 2 weeks. Your son asks if you looked at the financial aid forms. You tell him you're working on it. Month 3. The volume begins to shift. It happens the way a tide changes, which is to say gradually and then all at once, and by the time you notice the water level, the current is already different. Carver stops coming alone. There is a man named Dolan, who stands slightly behind him and to the left, the way people stand when they are used to being the final word in a room. Dolan wears the kind of clothes that communicate net worth without stating it. He looks at the evidence room the way a developer looks at a vacant lot. He doesn't speak the first time. He comes back twice more before he speaks. When he does, it's 4 sentences. He tells you that you are precise. He tells you that precision is rare and valuable. He tells you that the current arrangement has room to grow. He tells you that people who grow with it are protected. You don't ask what protected means. You already know what protected means. Protected means that the arrangement has a structure and you are inside the structure, and inside is different from outside. You say you understand. He nods. He leaves. You sit in the evidence room for 40 minutes after they go. And you think about your father's word, foundation. You think about what a foundation looks like from underneath it. Then you pull the intake logs for the quarter and you start planning. You are meticulous by nature. 11 years of chain of custody. Documentation has made you fluent in the language of official records. You know which forms get reviewed and which forms get filed. You know which supervisor's initial, without reading, and which once read without understanding. You know the audit cycles, the quarterly reviews, the federal reporting windows. You know the system's Skeleton because you have been its cartilage for over a decade. You build a reclassification architecture, secondary documentation, that creates a legitimate-looking disposal, history on top of the actual movement of property. You layer it across 3 different form types. You time the entries so they correspond with genuine, high-volume intake periods when the logs are dense enough to absorb anomalies without flagging them. Over 4 months, you move 3.1 kilograms of seized cocaine, 80-plus grams of heroin, and $47,000 in cash that came in from 2 separate task force operations. The cash is the most delicate. Cash has serial number documentation potential. You handle it in a way that routes it through a legitimate destruction log and creates a shadow record that would require a forensic accountant with a specific warrant to trace. You don't know where it goes after you move it. You stopped needing to know that somewhere around month 2. The arrangement pays you $8,200 a month. You move your son's university fund into a credit union account, registered in your mother-in-law's name. You pay the mortgage 6 weeks ahead. You start sleeping the way you slept before the bills started compounding. Which is to say fully, which is to say, you didn't realize how long it had been until it came back. Your wife notices. She says you seem lighter. She means it as a good thing. You tell her the city finally adjusted the pension contribution formula. She doesn't follow the pension closely enough to know whether that's plausible. She believes you because she has no architecture for not believing you. That is its own kind of weight. You carry it quietly. Year 2. Dolan brings you into a secondary arrangement. A contact at a neighboring jurisdiction's property room. A man named Osei, who has been there 8 years and has reasons the same way. You have reasons. Your job is to show him how the documentation works. Not to recruit him, not to pressure him. Just to show one careful, detail-oriented person how another careful, detail-oriented person built something invisible inside. A system that trusts careful people. You meet Osei twice in a parking structure. You show him 3 forms. You explain the reclassification logic. You answer his questions, which are precise and few. You recognize the look on his face because you wore it. The arithmetic running behind the eyes. The moment the number gets large. Enough to override the thing that was there before the number. You drive home after the second, meeting and park in front of your house, and sit in the dark for a while. You have become the thing that came down the stairs to you. You understand this. You don't look away from it. You just sit with it in the dark in front of the house with the mortgage that's paid ahead, and the son who got into the university, and the wife who thinks you seem lighter. The internal affairs flag comes on a Thursday. Not a full investigation, a procedural review. A lieutenant you've never spoken to sends a departmental memo requesting a reconciliation. Audit of disposal records across the last 18 months. Standard language. Routine framing. You read it 3 times. Then you open the secondary documentation layer you built 8 months ago for exactly this moment, and you begin the quiet work of making the record tell the story you needed to tell. You have been building this story longer than the audit has been looking for it. You are 11 years of understanding how this room works. You are the gap in the system that the system trained you to protect. Your son calls that evening. He made the dean's list. First semester. He says he wants to study criminal justice. You tell him that's a solid field. You tell him the system needs people who understand how it works from the inside. You tell him you're proud. You set the phone down on the kitchen counter. You stand there for a moment in the quiet of the house. Then you go back to the table and open the laptop and keep working. That's a wrap. This story is fiction. But evidence room theft is one of the least prosecuted forms of police corruption in the country. And audits of property rooms in major American cities have turned up missing cash, narcotics, and weapons in nearly every jurisdiction that looked hard enough. The Custodian almost always had a spotless record. If this made you think, drop a comment. Subscribe for more.